This video is not sponsored. I bought this 2,445 piece balcony theater modular building, which retails for $150 US. It's on Amazon and it's on the manufacturer's website. The manufacturer's name is unfortunate. They're going to be changing it in the first half of 2025, they have said. But for now, it is what it is. I haven't been able to actually find this for its retail price of $150 though, because it's always been on sale. I paid $105 for it. This comes with 8 figures that we'll look at very briefly later on. The base is done with a plate and then a series of tiles, so not a traditional base plate, but the depth is the traditional standard of 32 studs. However, the width is only 26 studs. So if you want this to fit onto a 32 by 32 grid, you need to add a little bit more to the sides. Lighting is the big deal with this company's products though, and this one includes, they say 20 individual lights. I didn't count them myself, but it's a bunch of them. And it completely transforms the feel of this. Even if you don't have all the lights in the room turned off like this, even just with normal room lighting or even during daytime, it looks great to have those turned on. Along the front, these 2 vertical strips look like EL wire, but I believe they're just using very, very small surface-mounted LEDs with a good amount of diffusion in there. That's 2 separate strips that get applied with an adhesive backing that's included. This is a nicely cut out pair of laser cut clear pieces of plastic with either an etch or a print on there. I can't tell which it is without looking at it through a loop, which unfortunately I didn't do, but it has a little bit of texture to it and obviously shows up the individual little dots and little lines and also the wording there. The lighting for this, for the edge lighting here, is actually in red, but it's a little bit dominated by the vertical lights behind. There's just so much light coming from those. So this ends up looking a little bit more yellow than it really is. And then there are additional lights underneath the signage there to just light up the entranceway, plus an additional light with some diffusion in it inside of the ticket booth itself. And you can fit a figure in there. Only 2 LEDs are used out here, but those are very incredibly strong for how small they are, and plenty to light up this entire sign. And returning to standard lighting, you can see the quality of the prints there. This uses 6 separate prints that were assembled. The parts were assembled first before they stamped it, so everything is lined up properly between the different tiles here. It's almost completely seamless until you look really, really closely with it. Good opacity, but of course it is just printing against white pieces there, so there shouldn't be any issue with that, but the colors look pretty good. This has a total of 70 prints in it, so you're going to see a whole lot of decorations all around here, including on solid pieces and transparent pieces. All this is printed stuff, again, pre-assembled before printing as well to ensure that everything gets aligned properly. And you're going to see some more also up here at the top. This is one place where there's the most obvious bad color. So this is the first set where I've really noticed some color inconsistencies. You can see that this tile right here, this one has a different color and a different shine to it. From some angles, it looks normal, but right from there, you can tell that that one was produced just a little bit different. Most of the gold in this is really good. Now it looks fine again, but just from some angles, you can see that one's off. There are a couple other spots that I'll try to remember to call out where I could just barely tell that there is definitely a difference in the color. Most of the gold though is just so nice. Most of the lacquered gold, or what we sometimes call drum lacquered gold, is just paint, but it's a really good paint. You can see it on the flower piece there. You can also see some of it down here on the railing, also for the door knobs there. So some of that is pretty good stuff. This is one spot where you can see a difference in color right here. I believe that these window frame pieces with the interesting design on the side are supposed to be the same color as this up above. So it's a little bit of a little bit off right there. In the background, you might have seen this. This is a USB, just my own USB power bank, just for extending the life of phones and things like that. So that's what I've got plugged in here right now. This brown box is the AA battery box that it comes with. So if you don't have USB power, you can just use this, and they include a little adapter to connect that over without using this thick USB wire, something much more subtle. But if you have USB, obviously that's a better option, because you can just get much more continuous running if you've got a power bank like this, or just hook it up to something that's ultimately connected into the main, so you can just keep on going. You've got a little telephone. This is a traditional old style telephone pole here with some molded silver pieces and some painted silver pieces. Overall, the building doesn't look great from some of these angles from the outside. All of this looks kind of weird here. And also over here, this looks kind of weird. You know, some consistency, at least to the color. I can imagine this being a believable side of a building, but this part over here has the thing sticking out, and then it's got these panels that are sticking in, and most of that is just about using up space without using up too many pieces, and also giving us the details that you're going to see on the inside. This has plenty of those. It also has plenty of access to the interior. You might have already noticed some hinges. And before I use those hinges, I do want to point out this right here that should be the same color as the dark orange parts around it. And you can see that exact same thing here. It's a different material that's used for those hinges to make them stronger, more durable, because they need to be for the small size. But I did want to call that out, that is an inconsistency in the color. But here we go. You open this up, and you've got coat check over here, and you've got lights on the inside. So this is wired up, and the wires are transferred over, the power is transferred over here. You have light boxes, shadow boxes with lights inside, with prints on the window portions there. Print for the keys here. There's also a little sign-in box to get some extra clothes that are already checked in there. There's a better look at the sign-in book, and then it's difficult to see. I'm going to try to force the focus down there. Yeah, it's just really, really tough to get in there and really appreciate it. But there are prints on the backs here as well, which you can fully appreciate while you're putting it together, but afterwards, not so much. Speaking of, there's another small print that you can barely see after you've finished the build. Really nice repeating pattern for the floor. So when this goes in, sorry, it's a little bit creaky sounding. When that goes in, it fills up this space right here with the studs. So you're not going to see the studded area when it's fully built, but really nice pattern and good details. More prints, probably more prints than it even needs. You got the saxophone over there, which is colored up really nicely with the gold. And as you look from a lower angle, you can see that there are lights on the inside, more printed things, more details, but you really want to take the upper floor off to see this stuff better. Now, this company these days always tries to make it easy to remove entire major floors by not having wires that go between the different floors that you then have to separate out on your own. They have these modified 1x4 pieces with touch terminals. So here you just put a little strip with a couple of open copper plates there on the top. And then there's another piece that's similar that comes with the opposite of that. So the male form of that sticks out. It makes contact here and has little spring-loaded prongs. The problem is that those two parts, this and the one that goes with it, above it, tend to stick to one another. I've found that if you know the orientation of those on a given set, you can take the upper floor and actually peel it off this way, and then they will separate properly. But if you just try to take it straight up, or if you try to go this way, they will end up sticking together, and then you'll have the wires from the top one still stuck to the floor, and that can be annoying to deal with. So that's definitely something that they need to make better. They're so close. It's so very, very, very close. And if you're a little bit handy yourself, you can just reduce the amount of material on there so that they have less clutch power, or even remove it entirely. Because honestly, you've got other studs to hold the whole floor in place to align it. So those aren't, sorry about that. So those aren't really necessary for that. But I did want to call that out because it is something that I've noticed on multiple sets now. So here now you can see more of the additional prints, some of them to an unnecessary degree. Beautiful design for the floor. Unfortunately, no studs for feet to go on, to actually attach the figures to. And that's something that adult fans of brick building stuff are always asking for, is no studs. They want everything to show no evidence that this is brick built. In the end, everything to be completely glossy and shiny and flat, which is unfortunate because then, like I said, you have no place to put the figures. Thankfully, they did include some studs here on the stairs a little bit. There's another print over there, but oops, that's just the battery box I just accidentally knocked off. But I personally really wish that we would be more reasonable and not be so against the inclusion of studs in things that are literally built with studs. because it's good to be able to actually put figures somewhere, this just lets you see a little bit better how these get attached in here, because they're just kind of friction fit into the spot with the lights. You can see on this one in particular has 3 LED lights inside of there, surface mount ones in red that are facing up. And then the rest of it is just physics, how physics works. Before I put this back on, I wanted to show you the pesky piece that does like to stick to the other one. So again, those are spring-loaded prongs there, and you can see some of the specialized other pieces that they have for routing wires without pinching wires, and what some of the LED pieces that are kind of pre-formed with the correct length of wire in between, how those look. And the instructions are very good with showing you how to route those wires. Now here's how this works. When you get it aligned, put it back on, you're going to see the electricity is going to start flowing through just like that. So these lit up, and now the entire upper floors are fully powered again. Sticking just to the outside, so for folks who don't want to be taking this apart all the time and just want to get a peek and a reminder of what's inside, they have these convenient doors on the side. So you can see a little bit of detail down in here. Once again, with the use of prints, and this does have some studs down at the base to put an attendant in this spot here. And you can start to see some of the seating inside. Also up here, balcony seating as well. And the additional little VIP box over here. Now that one, very difficult to get figures in, unfortunately. But you need to see more of the interior here, and you're just not going to get all of that from this. This is really intended to be just a peek. Let's bring it around to the other side. Check this out. So I'm going to move these lights just out of the way, only just. And then there's a big old handle right here. So this is one of the things that's might not look the best from the outside, but there's a reason for it to exist, and that's for access. So this all slides off, and that is the stage. It's actually the stage for the plays to be played. So imagine a little Romeo and Juliet situation here. Very small stairway over there. Again, not enough studs, honestly, for the actors to be posed around here, at least in my personal opinion. But with that removed, now you can see the rest of the inside of the theater. Now you're looking from the stage side back towards the audience. You can see the upper level there. You can see the box over there, which, like I said, is a little bit difficult to get into unless there's something that I personally was just missing there. But you can also see the customer side of the bar and confection stand back there with some more lights, those nice colored lights, almost like Christmas lights. A couple of those are not connected though to the surface. It's because they kept popping off. This is one other issue that I've seen now with multiple sets from this company. Specifically, their 1x1 round stud pieces with lights in them. There's something about the material, the way it flexes when it goes on to the stud underneath. It bends out and then actually springs itself away from the relatively sleek and very glossy surface of the stud itself. So they're actually pushing themselves off rather than grabbing from the side. So I think they need to either change the material there a little bit or just account for that fact, that just, again, how physics is working there, and adjust, change the tolerances so that they don't pop off as easily. Here they're just being held in with their lights. Really doesn't cause a big problem. But again, I didn't want to call that out because it is something that is, just not perfect. Nice little design off to the side here as well. And oh yeah, back there I mentioned from the outside that there are some panel pieces in order to get some prints in there. Actually, those are window frames with opaque glass, and the glass panes have the prints. Last but not least, you can also take the roof off easily, and that doesn't have any lights in it, so there's no connection to be seen up there. I do like this little vaulted section of it with the large sand green tiles. Not everything is fully finished off here, but I feel like it doesn't really need to be. But from some angles, you can just see inside there a little bit. A little bit of coverage there, just something to mask that would have been nice. But nice printing here for that title. But once again, that one piece is discolored for the tile on there. It's just weird. It does let you see a little bit more from the top, but honestly doesn't help all that much. Just removing the entire side is the most valuable thing. There are also a couple of lights that come down from above, stage lights, but their cans are very constricted. It's kind of the same as this piece right here, which you can see puts a whole lot of light out, but when you have it going the opposite way, as these are up here with the cone section, we're getting light from the narrow end. It only just puts a very, very dim light on the stage. As promised, here's a quick look at the figures, and I know that most of my viewers don't want to see these or don't care for them and want them to be thrown in the trash immediately because they don't look exactly like the figures that you're used to, and that's fine. But literally, legally, no other company can make figures that look like the ones that you want to see, so every other company has to make some serious changes, some legally substantive changes to their figure designs in order to be able to put products out at all. Each of these includes an alternate expression, and this company does write little short stories to represent the characters and what they do and what their places are. The one thing that's not smart about the alternate expressions is just with the character in red, because by default she's wearing something that doesn't cover up the back. So if you have her hat on like this, well, if you see her from the back and now she just has a face on the back of her head as well, so that's a little bit awkward. Here are the other things included. I won't necessarily call them all spares because, this is a brick separator tool. This is a set of tweezers which can be used to finally manipulate wires to make sure that everything goes exactly where it's supposed to go. This is a tiny little Phillips screwdriver for that screw right there. They have to have the screw for the sake of safety. For kids, this is the USB adapter that allows you to take power from this, because ultimately this is a 3 AA battery box that gives you USB power, and then you would connect from this over to the input on the back of the building, so you don't need to use this. You can use this if you want to, but you don't need to use this. This is also included as well, the USB-A to USB-C connector. Nice and thick too, with lots of insulation there. This is a sprue or a runner or a tree that included originally 4 of this ring piece, the 1 ring piece. And the nice thing about these is that they actually have full clutch power, so you can actually use those as anti-studs, and they do, just for a little bit of extra detail. And this is actually so that you can take out, I believe this is an extra so that you can take out the telephone pole and replace it with just a plain space if you want to, just turn that into a regular tile. And finally, I think that I might have made a mistake with this. I don't think that's supposed to be a spare. Might be my mistake, but I'm not sure about that. But there you go. Oh, also, extra arms and legs just allow you to change up the looks of your figures. But I have heard from some folks that they've had trouble putting these together, just assembling, especially the hands onto the arms. I personally haven't had any problem building, I don't know, like a couple dozen of these so far, but depending upon your grip strength and dexterity, that's something that might be an issue for you. Again, the retail price of this was $150 US, and though I paid less than that, I'm always going to go by the MSRP or RRP for the sake of fairness when considering value. And value here feels good to me. I mean, just looking at it on paper relative to the leading brand, relative to what we're used to in this industry, 2,445 pieces for $150 US, even without the lights, is good. But then you add all the lights and it feels really, really good. And you add all the prints, it feels nice. I'm not as big into prints as a lot of people are. I do Gundams and stuff where you have stickers or even have water slide decals or even have dry transfers. It's just not that big of a deal to apply things to bricks, but I do realize that a lot of you do value prints. But that said, going beyond the outside of this, so this looks beautiful to me from the outside. The presentation of it is good for the most part, except for maybe this side over here in the back. They aren't the best. They're not terrible, but they're not the best. But going beyond that, the additional stuff beyond just the surface, the outside, the facade of it, it is a fully three-dimensional, 360-degree facade. All this in here. What about the value of that? It's not as great to me. The inside of the theater, it's tough to do a theater in this small of a space with the proportions and size of these styles of minifigures in this hobby. But more importantly, all this access stuff is nice, right? To be able to see inside. But it feels wonky to me to have, okay, you got a full-size door here and part of it pulls out, but you still can't really see the back. Like there's these lighted signs, you can't really see the back inside of there. And it's difficult to put a figure in there. I can see up in there, but I can't really get in there. It doesn't help me that much. It's just like a window at that point. You could have just left this clear. And then this is a tiny, tiny window. That's not very useful. This is kind of nice, but there's not a whole lot of light in there. And then from the other side, they've designed this thing where you can slide this out, but that's a whole other system. And then I end up just wanting to take the roof off and take another level off, at which point why even have all of these things that are already compromising on the design inside and out? So I feel like this just doesn't have a single approach. It definitely does not have a single approach to access and visibility to the interior, and it suffers as a result. The marketing materials is all about, it's the first ever modular, multi-mode modular or something like that. They have some jargon they came up with that all the sponsored reviews, as I understand it, have been just parroting. That means, none of that means anything. It's just, there's just words. This just isn't great. This just doesn't look that great to me. It's good to have the access, but it's not done well. And I've already seen previews of stuff that's coming up that shows that this company knows how to do better than this. So hopefully this was just either something that was rushed or just something that they were learning from or something they were experimenting with along the way, and they'll do better in the future. I don't think that any of that stuff ruins the set. I pointed out a couple of small issues with part color inconsistency. That's not that big of a deal to me, but definitely needs to be called out. And they really need to work on the parts that they use for separating floors, the parts that have the connectors, the electrical connectors. That just needs to be fixed. They just need to change the mold for one of those pieces so that we don't have to do a trick in order to get these floors to come off. But overall, a beautiful set. Even at the suggested retail price, I think the value is good. Just not the best effort that this company has put forth yet, and definitely not the best that they can put forth. And yeah, just a little bit of a mishmash, mixed bag over here on the side and in the back. And also, you need to use that thick USB cable connected to the back once again, which isn't the most beautiful thing. Of course, supply your own cable, route that and everything, but I think that can be done better as well. Small things, but all in all, hopefully this has helped you to come to your own conclusion about whether you want this or not. If you do end up purchasing something, whether it's this or anything that you see on this channel, if you would like to support my independent, non-sponsored content here, please consider using an affiliate link in any of the video descriptions. The way it works is if you click a link and then you browse anywhere and then you purchase something, eventually I might get a very, very small commission off of that to help me to then buy more sets to review for you, but absolutely zero pressure on that whatsoever. Do not buy something that you don't want to buy. But if you do want to help me out at no additional cost or efforts to you, that would be appreciated. But thank you very much for watching. I hope that this has provided, again, some value to you as a video, whether you end up liking this thing or not. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.